start now?
I did. Here's all the people. You're not missing anything, Nicole. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so for implosion beads, the thing that we want to do is we're going to be using discs and dots. So you should love this, Carol. Discs and dots. And I'm just going to pull a small stringer on this rod. And the reason I'm using stringers is because the dots are very small and we don't want them to touch. So when we put them on. So we're going to make a largish disc, and then we're going to put dots around one side of it. And then eventually we're going to melt that down, and as we do, it's going to stretch them out into that implosion. So I want to use a bunch of different colors and create something funky. There, okay. So, did I grab a thing? I did not. Okay, so we're gonna start with a clear of your choice. Some people really like super clear. It's good. And we're gonna make a disc, and we wanna keep the disc fairly thin and fairly straight. And this is a gradual process. You don't want to try and do too much at once with the disc, otherwise it will just get all floppy or crack or break or whatever. So build it up slowly and carefully, because you want to keep it as nice and flat as you can. So. And it doesn't matter if the footprint is a little bit thicker, because it's not like a hollow bead, but we just want to make sure that everything goes nicely. And the bigger your disc will be, the bigger the bead will be. So ultimately, once we're done adding a bunch of stuff, it'll melt down. So now it's a little wonky. Gently. When I'm doing this, I'm really not putting any pressure on it. I'm just letting the block or the marver do it, you know, straighten out whatever needs to be straightened out. Good to try to keep the circle as even as you can. But it's not even. That's okay, we can fix it. Because I still want to go a bit bigger than this. I'll just remind you guys, it's been a really long time since I've done this. little bit more.
Is this going to make a big bead, or when it collapses, it
Not
it's why
really.
you need a
It'll
pretty
be
big disc.
be kind of a medium size. Okay, I think this is good. And we want to make sure that the rest of it doesn't get cold. Just like with sculpture, there's lots of stopping and starting. Just to make sure that the rest of it is okay. So we'll just warm it up, make sure that it's adhering. All right. When you have your mostly round disc, sorry, it's just really uneven. We're going to start adding our dots on one side. And when we start, so when we start, I'll do them on this side so you can see what's going on. You want to do them as close to the mandrel as you can get your first ones, but don't touch the mandrel. The closer you get them to the mandrel to start, the more your implosion will sort of spread out. Like, it's hard to explain, but on that yellow bead that you guys had, it was all really close to the center. If you don't start really close, it will never get further. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it is the experience I've had. So I've learned that you go as close to the center as you can. And you can do them in even rings, or you can just do them randomly. It does not matter. It's entirely up to you. But we don't want them to be huge. Which is why I'm using the stringers. If you are comfortable using the big rods, you certainly may. And then always between each layers or layer or row of dots, just heat up the back side a little bit, just so it doesn't get too cold. Okay, and I'm gonna just do another row, sort of in between the last row. And remember, when you're flame cutting and working with stringer, you don't need to be right in the flame too long, because the stringer will just turn to soup. All right, so you see how that looks? Okay, let's do some red.
So you're gonna add all your dots to one side of the bead?
Yep.
Okay.
Just make sure they're on, make sure the back is warm. We're gonna go right to the edge of the disc. Oh well, I botched that. We went from an ordered pattern to completely random.
Random is better.
It's organic.
It's organic.
Today's mantra is organic. All right, I'm gonna throw some white on here. To the end, I think. Almost.
So you can go right to the
right
edge.
to the edge, but not over it. Yeah. Okay, and the last bit of dots we're gonna put on is red. Just on the edge. Ooh, that's a little close. Okay, I'm just gonna infuse those on and make sure they're good. And then you can see what's, okay. All right, so now I'm just gonna give the back a little bit of heat. And now we're gonna just sort of melt these dots in. And what we're gonna do is heat them all up and just use the marber to push them in a little bit. You can use this as well, but you have to be really careful not to break your bead release, because we want to kind of get these dots melted in flat, or as flat as we can get them. And so we can just kind of gently got a good enough view there? Can you see?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay. Okay, we're getting close. Getting close. It's like a pizza. Okay. Okay, so those are pretty well almost melted in, or we don't want to overdo it, but there we go. Okay, so we have them melted flat. You can see what it looks like from the other side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on melting this into a bead. And we're going to keep, you can do it from the top of the flame or the bottom of the flame, but we're really only going to keep the half of the bead in the flame at a time. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so, and you can go slow, and I'm gonna tip it a little bit towards the side where we put the bead, or the dots. Because what's gonna happen is it's gonna start to spread out and curl in. You know how when we're trying to make our ends nice and we heat where the mandrel and the glass meet? This is the same sort of thing, but we're starting on the edges first and then going in. And you'll see what I mean by that. So we're gonna heat up the edges, and I'm gonna encourage it with gravity to go that way. Sometimes a little bit bigger flame might help the process go a little quicker. But as you do it, you can see them stretching out on the edge. I don't know if you could see that. Could you see that? Like this. Okay, so you see what's happening?
Yep.
It's starting to curl, yeah. And we want to keep it as straight as we can. This isn't the most even thing I've ever made, but it'll all look good in the end. She says with optimism. Yeah, so this won't be an enormous bead, but Okay, so you can see what's happening to it. So what we're doing is we're stretching those dots out. And then they're eventually going to meet at the bottom. So it looks a little bit like those petal beads, but the process is quite different. And you can use any color you want. If you want like a ghostly sort of implosion, you can use transparents or silver glass. That's really cool. Or you can stick to opaques. Whatever makes you happy. Okay, so now I'm gonna start acting as if it's like making the ends nice, and we're gonna stretch it down towards the mandrel. And you can see there we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna tidy that up a little bit on the bottom. Looks like a cabochon. Kind of magic. And if your bead isn't quite round on the other side, I'm just going to add a little bit more glass, just to sort of make it round.
That was on the opposite side.
Yeah.
To make it round.
Yeah, just to make
Just to
enough
add more
glass.
glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way it'll be even on both sides, and then we'll get a nice sort of puckered edge, more or less. There we go. And then stretch it out a little bit more. Of course, I overdid it. And if you really wanted to, after this, you could put it in a roller and swirl it around, and it'll look twisted.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I'm gonna not tempt fate too much here. Make my edge nicer that I tried to fix. There we go. And there is our implosion bead.
Oh, we didn't
Okay.
focus.
It's very, very cool.
That is super cool.
All right, and we hit
There we
stop.
go. Oop.